You've heard it a million times, right? No pain, no gain. Just tough it out, push through it. But what if I told you that entire way of thinking about toughness is not just wrong, but it might actually be making us weaker? Well, let's dive into a whole new science of what it really means to be strong. For generations, we've had this one model for toughness. You know the type. The stoic warrior who just suppresses their feelings, projects this unbreakable image, and endures absolutely anything without saying a word. That's been the blueprint for success everywhere, from the boardroom to the football field. But what if the latest science is telling us that model is just fundamentally broken? That trying to be that person is actually making us more fragile. And if that's true, then what does real strength even look like? Okay, let's break it down. The old idea of toughness, it's all about outside pressure, using fear, control, and putting on a brave face, a facade. But real toughness, well, that's an inside job. It's built on a foundation of support, it's powered by having a choice, and it's grounded in just accepting reality for what it is. So where did we even get this whole idea of toughness as some kind of brutal trial by fire? Turns out it comes from some pretty extreme examples that we've been, frankly, misinterpreting for decades.
Just listen to this. This quote is from the legendary Junction Boys football camp. The coach put his players through these absolutely grueling practices with no water. But here's the thing, the goal wasn't to develop them. It was just to see who wouldn't quit. And that's the old philosophy in a nutshell, right? Toughness is just about survival, not about actual growth. And this is the huge mistake we've all been making. We took these military sorting mechanisms and tried to apply them as development tools. Think about it. A Navy SEALs Hell Week isn't supposed to teach toughness. It's designed to find out who's already tough enough. We've basically been giving people the final exam without ever teaching them the material for the course.
Which brings us to another really flawed pillar of this old model, the whole fake it till you make it idea. As it turns out, just projecting strength builds a pretty shaky foundation. In his book, Do Hard Things, Steve Magness makes this super important distinction. He argues that we've all become obsessed with what he calls outer confidence, looking the part, and we've totally neglected inner confidence, which is the real deal, the stuff that's grounded in self-awareness. And get this, the data backs him up in a huge way. A study with over 12,000 people found that folks with high outer confidence scored a measly 42 out of 100 on resilience. But the people with high inner confidence, they were scoring way up in the 70s and 80s. I mean, it's not even close. That tough facade just shatters when things get real. And this isn't just an individual thing. We tried to build a whole social movement around it. Remember the self-esteem movement in the 80s? The idea was that if we just told kids they were special, it would solve all these problems. It was a giant experiment in building outer confidence, but it was totally disconnected from the hard work of actually building competence. Okay, so if the old way is broken, what's the new way? Well, it all starts with understanding this fascinating psychological idea about how our brains can literally be trained to either give up or to keep going. Back in the 1960s, some famous experiments showed us something incredible about quitting. So first, scientists exposed dogs to electric shocks they couldn't escape from. Then, they put them in a new box where they could easily get away. But when the shocks came again, the dogs didn't even try to leave. They just laid down and took it. They had literally learned to be helpless. Their past experience taught them that nothing they did mattered, so they just stopped trying. Does that sound at all familiar? It's what happens when you're in a job with a micromanager or in a controlling relationship. We learn to just give up. But here is the absolute game-changing idea from modern science. Helplessness might actually be our default setting. Hopefulness, on the other hand, that's a skill. It's something we have to learn. We have to actively teach our brains that we are in the driver's seat.
So think of your brain like this. It's got a super sensitive smoke alarm, that's your amygdala, and a calm, cool firefighter, that's your prefrontal cortex. When stress hits, that alarm starts blaring. The old idea of toughness says to just ignore the alarm. The new model says, no, you need to train the firefighter to show up and handle the situation calmly and effectively.
So how in the world do you train that inner firefighter? Well, it really all comes down to one thing: learning how to manage the conversation that's happening inside your own head. We all have this inner debate going on, especially when we face a big challenge, right? There's that voice of panic, and then there's the voice of perseverance. The real question is, which one is winning? The good news is that learning to tip the scales in favor of that calm, persistent voice is a skill you can actually learn. And science has given us a whole toolkit for winning that debate. Each of these is a really practical way to get your brain's firefighter, that prefrontal cortex, on the scene to calm things down. Talking out loud actually simplifies your thoughts. Using you or your own name creates a little distance. Naming your emotions helps tame them. And zooming out just makes the problem seem smaller. I know, talking to yourself out loud might feel a little weird, but there's a really good reason it's so powerful. It's actually how we all learned to control our behavior when we were toddlers. It just cuts right through all that mental noise and gives our brain a clear, simple instruction to follow. So let's put it all together. What does this new version of toughness really look like? It's not about being your own personal drill sergeant. It's about being that calm, capable firefighter who knows how to handle the heat. This new model is built on 3 deep psychological needs that create motivation from the inside out. First is autonomy, that feeling that you have a voice and a choice. Second is competence, the satisfaction you get from making progress and getting better. And third is belonging, that feeling of being connected to a team or a bigger mission. When you have these things, you don't need fear to drive you. The drive is already there. There's this great story about NBA coach Steve Kerr. His championship team was in a slump, and instead of yelling at them, you know what he did? He handed them the clipboard and told them to coach themselves for a game. He knew that to get their spark back, he had to give them back their sense of ownership, their autonomy. So in the end, this new kind of toughness isn't about faking it. It's about facing it. It's about having the self-awareness to understand what's going on inside you and having the skills to navigate the world outside. It's really just about being authentically you. So the question we should be asking isn't how much pain can you endure? The real question is, how much can you grow? What would change for you if you started building your strength from the inside out? What does that kind of real toughness look like for you?